Yogurt is an ancestral food that today is produced on a large scale in high-tech industrial plants. Behind each container lies a series of controlled processes that guarantee quality, safety, and consistency. From milk selection, through homogenization and fermentation, to final packaging, yogurt production combines science, microbiology, and precision industrial operations. But first, if you want to keep learning how different types of products are made, stay until the end of the video and hit the subscribe button for future videos. Everything begins with the arrival of fresh milk. Tank trucks transport it refrigerated to prevent microbial growth, and before unloading, samples are taken to evaluate its temperature, acidity, density, fat content, the possible presence of added water, and the absence of antibiotic residues. Only when it meets established standards is it unloaded into storage tanks, where more comprehensive analyses are subsequently performed, such as microbial counts and protein verification. This is essential to ensure that each batch of yogurt maintains consistent flavor, texture, and safety. Next, the milk undergoes a standardization process. Since milk varies according to season and the cow's diet, the fat and total solids content is adjusted to obtain different types of yogurt, from whole to skim or Greek style. This adjustment ensures uniform texture and prevents variations between batches. The milk is then homogenized. At this stage, the fat is broken down into tiny particles by applying high pressure through extremely small valves. This prevents the cream from separating and contributes to the smooth, creamy consistency that characterizes industrial yogurt. Once homogenized, the milk moves to the pasteurization process. Here it is heated to high temperatures, commonly around 95 degrees Celsius for several minutes, to eliminate pathogenic microorganisms and unwanted flora. Additionally, this heat treatment causes changes in the milk proteins, facilitating the yogurt's firm structure later on. Subsequently, the milk is rapidly cooled to approximately 42 to 45 degrees Celsius, the ideal temperature for the growth of lactic acid bacteria responsible for fermentation. With the milk at the correct temperature, the starter culture is added, composed mainly of Streptococcus thermophilus and Lactobacillus delbrecki subspecies. Bulgaricus, bacteria that work cooperatively. One produces metabolites that favor the growth of the other, thus accelerating fermentation. These bacteria consume lactose and produce lactic acid, a compound that thickens the milk, generates yogurt's characteristic tangy flavor, and regulates the final product's pH. In some cases, probiotic strains such as Lactobacillus acidophilus or Bifidobacterium are also added. The inoculated mixture is transferred to fermentation tanks where it remains for several hours. During this time, acidity gradually increases, proteins coagulate, and the yogurt structure forms. The plant constantly monitors parameters such as pH, titratable acidity, consistency, and internal temperature. Fermentation ends when the yogurt reaches a pH of approximately 4.5. If fermentation continues longer, the product will become excessively acidic and acquire a broken texture. Depending on the type of yogurt desired, the process can last between 4 and 8 hours. Once the fermentation endpoint is reached, bacterial activity must be immediately stopped through rapid cooling. The yogurt is lowered in temperature to below 10 degrees Celsius, which stabilizes the texture and prevents the pH from continuing to decrease. When the product is cold, it can be mixed with different ingredients depending on the variety: crushed fruits, jams, sweeteners, flavorings, or natural colorants. In fruit-on-the-bottom yogurts, the jam is placed first in the container and the yogurt on top. For stirred yogurts, mixing is done in specialized tanks before packaging to achieve a homogeneous texture. The yogurt then moves to the automatic packaging line. Here, High-speed machines sterilize the containers, dispense precise quantities of product, place lids or foil seals, and print the batch number and expiration date. The entire process is carried out in areas with strict hygienic conditions to avoid any type of contamination. Finally, each batch undergoes quality controls. Tests are performed for pH, viscosity, microbial count, sensory evaluation, aroma verification, texture review, and labeling confirmation. Once the yogurt is approved, it is stored in refrigerated chambers between 2 and 6 degrees Celsius, and from there, distributed in refrigerated trucks to supermarkets and points of sale. Thanks to this cold chain, the yogurt maintains its characteristics until it reaches the final consumer. Thus, a process that integrates science, microbiology, and industrial technology transforms fresh milk into one of the world's most consumed foods.